returning to play a few rounds of Gwent. That ought to set me straight.
It's Commander Sworn episode 106. The spotlights are on as new leaders are being revealed, and we've already seen two major players, Thronebreaker, Ardal Dahi, and Queen Meave. Also, the faction war has come to an end, and the ambassadors of monsters, the winner, and Scoia'tael. Two streamers that have dedicated thousands of hours to their factions. SirPumpkn and OceanMud will join us today. Stay tuned, my friends. Good afternoon, my friends. It is January 24th, 2019. We're back with another weekly Gwent podcast, and this time we have two titans of Gwent streaming. Your Scoia'tael and Monster Faction ambassadors, SirPumpkn and OceanMud. SirPumpkn, how you doing? We've had a little mic and headphone issues to get things started, and now it looks like some volume maybe was too loud for you. What happened there? Are you okay?
Oh, no. I'm just putting on my hearing aids so that I can lower the volume on my headset so that hopefully there's no echo.
Oh, that works.
I think we should be good.
Oh, that works. And well, sorry for the technical difficulty, everybody. OceanMud, how are you? We got the chroma key for you here on the video podcast. You're floating in space. It's great to have you on the podcast for the first time. It's been I feel like it's been a long time coming, OceanMud, and here you are in glory. Your faction just won the faction war. How does it feel, my friend?
Yeah, it's a great feeling. Just as an aside, I don't hear any echoes, so you're good on my end. Thanks for the invite. This is my first time here, and I have been looking forward to being on here for a while. So thanks for having me. This is great.
This is really great. So it's great to have you guys on, specifically because as far as faction ambassadorship, the people that were chosen are the people that are generally streaming a lot, and you guys stream a lot. You play a lot of Gwent as well. You two probably boast the highest playtime out of anybody. OceanMud, you had 2 level 100 accounts, I believe. You have OceanMud and OceanMud Smurf with level 100. Pumpkin, did you have a Smurf that was also at level 100? I'm just curious. Before the switch over.
I don't think it was 100. It was probably around 80. I don't think I ever capped it at 100. I didn't play a lot. I usually hit GM and then stopped playing on the Smurf.
Oh, okay.
So no, not to the same extent.
So what is your play time? I'm just do you have that? Did you add that up? I sent the notes ahead of time just in case you guys had a chance to see.
So the problem is I don't run GOG.
That'll do.
Boot it through GOG and then I kill it. So it's something like 3,500 to 4,000.
It's got to be higher than 4,000 because I'm also at 3,500 and I'm certain you've played more than I. OceanMud, what about you?
Well, you mentioned OceanMud and OceanMud Smurf. The interesting thing is that
this is the third one.
I actually have more playtime on OceanMud Smurf than I do on OceanMud.
Oh, okay.
It's because I have a little bit of ladder anxiety, and I don't know. It makes me feel a little bit better to be playing on a name that's called Smurf than a name. So yeah, I actually have a pretty easy trick for at least me on how to figure out my Gwent hours. I close GOG as well. So what I do is I never play Gwent off stream.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you guys, but 6 hours a day, 5 hours a day, that's enough for me. So what I do is I just use my uptime or my however many hours I've been streaming. I have a program that does that. So I have about 3,300 hours of streaming Gwent.
Okay.
So one thing, like if you want to put that into perspective, because like what's 3,300 hours, right? It's just a number. Like
nah, not when we're talking about hours. I don't think it's no longer just a number.
Hold on, it ain't math. That's like 140 days or something. I think that's right. I think it's like that's like 4.5 months of just straight playing Gwent. So that's like homecoming. So so yeah, that just puts it into perspective how much we actually play Gwent. So. But I enjoy it, so that's why I do that.
I mean, I must have some a lot of beta hours on you guys because I'm close to that as well, and maybe some idle time on top of that. But I'm close to that as well. But how do you guys hold up? You held up through the homecoming time, and I know that this is probably a very tiring and very banal question, probably because it's probably like the expected thing. But you two do stream the highest amount probably than any other Gwent streamers, even. Not current Gwent streamers, like all time, like the amount of hours you guys have put into the game. Did you have to switch it up a little bit as things were kind of getting into the dark times, or were you going full bore the whole time? Pumpkin, I'll throw that one to you.
So I mean, I just kept doing it 7 hours a day. I just looked it up. I have a total of 3,444 hours played on Gwent for streaming. So
That's pretty good.
about that. I've done a little bit off stream, like at the last day I'll play off stream, but for the most part I only specifically play on stream. In terms of like the drought was rough, but we made it through it, and CDPR is doing monthly patches. I think that's the biggest thing. It's still to this day the biggest surprise from CDPR.
Mm-hmm. That they were going to do that.
I honestly did not think they were going to do that. I mean, really, no company has done that. Monthly patches on a card game does not exist anywhere.
I mean, I think that a lot of the stuff that Gwent has done, especially considering the whole beta teardown and rebuild, they've been doing a lot of stuff that a lot of companies have never done before, kind of redefining how they can learn and build. And they go from this slow thing of taking this time for Homecoming to build this new game that they probably used all of the feedback from beta to try to get as right as possible. Now they've made monthly patches since then, and that's pretty good as well. But to still make changes at this point is now just tweaking, because the Mulligan change was just absolutely perfect. OceanMud, you went nonstop with Monsters as well, and I'm going to actually jump ahead and ask you about the Monsters faction website, because you have been pure dedication, and you were Monster ambassador before as well. And I'm sorry, Pumpkin, if that was the case in your side as well, because you guys are the two most likely. Like, you play mostly Scoia'tael, you came in from Spalatel. Ocean, you are the Eridan streamer, right? You type in McBearded in your chat, and you have a quote of me saying, "OceanMud is the Eridan master, the absolute master."
It's a great quote.
So, how is monstersfaction.com going? This is a new endeavor for you, actually having a website. What inspired you to do that rather than doing just putting your decks on a deck building site?
What's my inspiration for monsterfaction.com?
Yeah.
I would say I still use deck building websites.
Mm-hmm.
So I still put all my decks on GWENT up. One thing that's tough, I would say, that was tough for me whenever I was first starting to stream, was that I didn't know what to build. And if you go to a deck builder website, then it just gives you like a whole bunch of decks thrown at you, and you have to kind of sort through it. GWENTDB, if you guys remember GWENTDB, that was like a fantastic thing.
I don't know why they stopped.
Like,
don't they have that curse money? Like, I don't know why it stopped. I mean, I have a rough idea of why it stopped, but it seems like that.
I'm not sure, but there was like pro players on there, like, that you could consistently go to, and they would have guides and everything. And so, like, right now there isn't really that with GWENT up and with Gwinny.gg. So what I did was I just created a site that's kind of like a monster snapshot. So I wouldn't call my site even close to a deck builder site. It's more like the R2's a meta snapshot.
It's like where people can go.
One of the where people can go just for monsters. If you don't think that I'm a good player, then you probably don't want to go there. Like, because most of the decks are just me playing the decks, and hopefully it's you would consider it from a reliable source. But yeah, like I was saying about the R2's a meta snapshot, it's more like that. The thing about the meta snapshot, I go to the R2's meta snapshot, is that it takes a month or so to come out with the meta for every faction, 5 tiers and stuff like that. Monsterfaction.com is basically just me on a daily basis, what I think pro ladder is looking like and what you should put in it. Like right now, for example, because the monsters won the faction wars, you're probably going to see a lot of big woodlands and stuff. So you'll see me putting Yurden in decks. If you're interested to see how monsters are doing, if you're on pro ladder, or if you're just a regular player and you want to play monsters, then you can just head on over to monsterfaction.com and you can see some decks on it. So yeah.
Right on, man. Good work. And Pumpkin, you being crowned as the Scoia'tael ambassador, didn't surprise me. Was this just like a normal week of streaming Scoia'tael for you? I know you don't just only stream Scoia'tael. You were streaming Nilfgaard today, and I see your stream tag Usurper every now and then when I log out. Seems to be a leader you tend to enjoy. But how is the faction week for you, though?
So pre-Homecoming, I would almost strictly play Scoia'tael. I do what Ocean does, and I almost always play Ethne all day long every day for months on end. But since Homecoming came out, the factions became more interesting. So I started to branch out and play everything, which was that's the biggest change for me personally with Homecoming. So I've been really enjoying that. So yeah, when the Scoia'tael faction or the faction challenge went off, I kind of devoted most of the stream to Scoia'tael just because it felt awkward when people come into the stream and wonder why I wasn't playing Scoia'tael. I played one non-Squirtle game once, and I got called a traitor. So
yeah, at that point, you've once you're typecast, that's it, right?
Yeah. So yeah, mostly Squirtle. People were wondering why I was only playing Squirtle, but I figured 1 week of only Squirtle is not the end of the world. So I am happy though to play other factions. So that's good.
Well, that's good. OceanMud, would you say you're happy to play other factions, or would you use a different word?
I wouldn't say so. If I had a choice, I probably would only have played monsters forever. The only reason why I stopped playing Aridin only because I had 3,000 games in Aridin is because I became the monster faction ambassador.
Yeah,
I only played
more.
I didn't play monsters. And people said you're a monster player. I would say I'm not a monster player. I play Aridin. Like I'm just playing Aridin. And so like when they made me the monster faction ambassador, I was like, well, I guess I have to branch out. And so I started playing Unseen Elder and can I say Dagon? I played Dagon and I played.
Too soon, man. I don't think we can say
that. He's coming back and Arrakis Queen. And then like whenever Homecoming came, I did not want to play other factions. It was a little nerve wracking to be honest because I only played monsters. But in order to be competitive, and you know, we're all competitive, aren't we? Like deep down inside, we want to win. I can't show how competitive I am unless I play different factions. But I'll tell you something. So I got top 100 the first 2 seasons of Homecoming. Mm-hmm. I'm becoming less competitive. I can feel it in myself. Like I don't want to play other factions. Like I feel content with where I am, and so I feel myself playing more and more monsters and less other factions.
So you don't care about your leaderboard ranking, really?
Right. Like I feel like it's just leaving me. Like I was happy when I did it the first 2 seasons, and now I've done it. I've proven that I can do it, and so now it's just like I almost feel like I just want to play monsters again.
I have one more question for you guys. Actually, I'm going to go off script because you said you guys are cool, chilling. But this shouldn't be that. This is not a crazy question. Just curious because I have 2 specialists on the podcast. Well, I know Pumpkin, you branch out, but let's imagine that this is pre-Gwent. Let's imagine best of 3 format where each player brings a single deck, like how Magic the Gathering does it. Would you venture into do you think you would have jumped in a little bit harder competitive if you knew you could kind of represent as a specialist in a tournament? Pumpkin, what do you think?
What do you mean by that?
You'd come with Squirtle as like your deck would be Squirtle, and you'd be able to do a best of 3 with that, and perhaps with like a sideboard. But any given player would only expect it to be bringing one deck or one kind of deck, and you would be able to bring in answers on the side to respond to your opponent's texts that might be against you.
Wait, so is it only one deck, or is it you have to win? Is it all like 3 Squirtle decks?
Yeah, you'd play 3 games, but with one deck, something like that. Because I feel like with the way decks are these days and the way deck building is, it feels like it's not unreasonable to think that this might be a format one day, even as like a tournament that somebody puts together.
Are we applying this to pre-Homecoming or current Gwent?
Well, current Gwent.
Because pre-Homecoming, no, because Squirtle sucked.
That's a good answer.
So there's no point. Post-Homecoming, well, after this upcoming patch, yeah, we'll have to see. So, yeah, I don't know.
You get to see those new leaders. I mean, I would just love to see a world where OceanMud could compete and Aridin would be good enough. That's all you would need. You just need Aridin and skill with one leader. I think that would be. I would love to see OceanMud in a bracket for a tournament that was like that. How would you do?
It makes it sound to me like a King of the Hill format or something. Like I know it's best of 3, but you bring one deck, and then whose deck is strongest with the sideboard.
Well,
that kind of?
Yeah, it's like you get to play one game blind, and then the second game, once you know what your opponent has, you might have some answers that you could add.
And it would be super simple. Like I feel like I would win that instantly.
That's the attitude that I would want.
No, here's how you do it. And once I say it, people will be like, okay, you won't win anymore. Do you want to know the strategy? Like I know the strategy. Like I have it in my head right now. I already know what to do. The first thing you do is you play straight artifacts. That's the first thing that you do. You just play a artifact heavy deck the first game. They will only have like one removal maybe. They're not going to know, oh, he's running 10 artifacts in his deck. I can't stop it. Do you want to know what the second game is? Take a while, guess what the second game is.
Only
no artifacts.
Only weather?
All artifacts.
Oh,
again. Because they're not going to want to stop. They're going to say, okay, I found your little trick. You're running all artifacts, and then they're gonna be like, okay, he's gonna take it out. Nope. The second game, you still do all
Yeah,
artifacts.
but it doesn't work because you just get pushed the second game and you get smashed.
But they're not gonna know I have all artifacts because
You're playing the same deck. It's the same deck. You play Ragnarok and it's potion mud. Okay. Push.
Oh, exactly. Potion mud. That's exactly right. That's what it is. But you don't play the artifacts until round 3.
How are you winning round 1?
Round 1, you play Witchers and Roach and Riders. And you play Arc Spores and you play Drowners, so it looks exactly like the same deck. And they're gonna be like, "There's no way he's playing artifacts
Craft War is
again."
But now, what if I try to win round 1?
Pumpkin, it's not gonna work versus you because I already told you.
Yeah, exactly.
You already know.
You can't criticize it now because you know how the trick is done.
And honestly, Pumpkin's he might be too good of a player for it to work against. It might not fool him. You know what I mean?
Well,
but I feel like if I'm in an average tournament or something, and no one knows what my deck was, what my sideboard was, I feel like I could consistently use that strategy.
Well, that's why you should enter a future tournament as OceanMud, and no one will have
as Potion. You know what? I kind of it's like everybody has inside of them. Everybody has a little bit of Potion Mud, and I try my best to taper it down a little bit. But sometimes he comes out, and when he does, it's fun. But then he has to go straight back because you don't want to take over.
Are you describing like a drunk stream?
Drunk stream? No, I was thinking about our. Well, I don't know.
The potion we're talking about?
No. That's just what he calls the deck.
Okay.
It's like my alter
just
ego.
Complete degeneracy. It sounds like it's just complete degeneracy.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like The Simpsons. You guys know The Simpsons, where Bart had that evil twin or whatever in the attic, and nobody knew about it. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Treehouse of Horror number. I'm gonna guess 4.
Okay, never mind. You know more about it than I do. But the point of the story is.
Oh, now I'm a nerd.
Is that, yeah.
Whatever. Forget you
about more than that. But yeah, that was the yeah, that's what I equate it to. I just have 2 personalities, and sometimes one takes over the other one.
Well, now my announcer personality is going to take over because I want to tell everybody who's watching the show right now, the episode of Commander's Corner is recorded live on Twitch, twitch.tv/McBeard, and will be posted on YouTube where you can find me as McBeard. Usually recording on Thursday, start times varying depending on the guests, and these guests were able to put their time aside and join me today at this time. Thanks again. Podcast is posted on the feed, iTunes, and YouTube at youtube.com/c/McBeard on the Commander's Horn playlist. And finally, this episode is brought to you by the Commandos. Our patrons at patreon.com/Commander's Horn. Guys, I really want to talk to you about some new leaders, and this kind of conflicts with our guests. We have the monsters and the Scoia'tael faction leader, but we got to talk about Northern Realms and Nilfgaard because we got this news that new leaders are entering the game, expected this month. We know who's supporting the Blackclads in the Realms. Let's see what you guys think just after this show. All right, folks, we talked a little bit about the faction battle already because this is also very timely news. Before we talk about Meave and this Nilfgaardian other chump, we should probably talk about faction battle as far as the results are in. Monsters takes number 1. I believe it was Nilfgaard that took number 2, Scoia'tael number 3, Skellige number 4, and Northern Realms. We made it on the board. 5th place. There's okay, so that's my limit of screaming. I think if you want to hear the echo, I won't yell that much. OceanMud, the winning faction was Monsters, and no point was Monsters ever out of number 1 from any time that I saw it. OceanMud, bias aside, did this surprise you that Monsters was number
1? Did it surprise me that Monsters were number 1? Well, popularity-wise, I heard there was some type of bug maybe where if you didn't update it, then you automatically pick Monsters. I don't know how much of an effect that had. I would think it might not have been as high as people make it out to be, but I think it definitely exists. Popularity, I would say it's twofold popularity. It's how many people picked the faction and how difficult the contract was to fulfill. Because, for example, did more people pick Monsters? I don't know in Pro Ladder if more people picked Monsters, but I think overall people probably more picked Monsters. But the difficulty of contract.
Yeah.
With Scoia'tael, I know it's really difficult.
Well, yeah, the casual players probably make up the meat of this. I mean, a lot of
Right.
games come in from the pro players. I know that some people are pushing thousands of games at this point, but um, I think it was Cam specifically had almost over 1,000. But I know that I don't. Could a bug actually account for that much? That many people?
Probably
I'll tell you
not.
that
And you
last
know what's
quest though, the
insane?
drop off on that last quest would not surprise me. Northern Realms one that took me like I feel like 3 days of just messing around, just playing. I didn't build a deck to like to break it. Like I didn't like just put all orders and zeal.
Right.
That's what Northern Realms had to do. Orders and zeal. I believe Scoia'tael. You guys had the worst one, right? You had to play traps. You had to play traps, right?
Well, it was traps and cards that had the worst boost on it,
Okay.
so usually just play boost cards.
Which Scoia'tael is known to do.
Yeah, there's a few of those.
There's a couple of those. Scoia'tael ended up third, right in the middle. And it's interesting because I feel like the popularity wise of how things went over this week was kind of a snapshot. Like it's like whatever people liked last week would like everybody would like maintain that. Like there probably wasn't a lot of switching for people. So it was kind of like the popularity of last week bleeding over. Scoia'tael always seemed like it was kind of middle in the pack. Do you feel like Scoia'tael power-wise, Pumpkin, is kind of a middle-of-the-road faction? Or do you think that it deserves to be a little bit more popular than it might be showing?
In terms of strength, I don't think it should become more popular. I was honestly surprised it got third. I thought SK was easily going to get third. I honestly don't know why SK didn't get third. What I did notice, you mentioned monsters with Pro Ladder. When I was playing on Pro Ladder, I didn't see any monsters, and yet monsters was still in first place. So I think
Right. Exactly.
the majority of the monster players were the lower ranks.
Feels good.
Is that because is monsters an easier deck to get into at the beginning because all you have to do is like craft spear tip and you already have Ozzy and Ghoul?
Well, he's got a really appealing leader as well. I mean, the main antagonist from Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, he's like on the cover of the. I mean, it's called Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. It's like Eridan's there. He's the only leader out of the 5 that you get. I guess Emir too. I guess.
But you would play Eridan. You'd play Woodland Spirit.
Do you guys know why I picked monsters? Does anybody have any idea why? Like, if you just had to take a wild guess, like
your favorite color is red.
Monsters? There, see, that's a great guess. Like, that's just fine. Like, it's just a random thing. It's something equal to that.
It was the only thing that you recognized when you loaded it up, right?
Lore-wise, that's a good guess too. I chose monsters because in open beta, it was the first choice in the tutorial. It was there. I was like, okay, they probably wouldn't give
for you.
I don't know anything about the lore, to be honest. I mean, I've learned over time. My favorite color is purple, but I like red too. The main thing is just in my mind, I said, okay, why would they make it the first leader if it wasn't good? You know what I mean? Like they're not going to introduce you to a bad leader, and so
CDPR would never make any like the decided everything is meticulously planned in advance.
and now you'll start to understand when I say I had 3,000 Eridan games wins before I even played another monster because it wasn't about monsters for me. It was just about it was the first leader to play, so I just played Eridan over and over and over again. So I think a lot of people might relate to that because I consider myself like the average person, like the average viewer, just with a lot of hours in Gwent. Like they see something in the tutorial and they don't know much about the lore. I don't know their favorite color, but yeah, they just went with it.
Probably
so
red.
I think that probably
CD
played
Projekt Red.
a strong role in it.
I mean, I think that so there's nothing appealing about. I mean, we'll move on, but there's nothing appealing about Eridan. Is like he's so like iconic. Like he's the villain. He's got the giant skull, like the giant spiked skull helmet. None of that appealed to you at all. It was just that he was first.
It's only iconic. It's only iconic if you know the lore. If you go to like Africa and you go to a tribe, and you say, how can you not like Michael Jordan? He's the most iconic basketball player ever. And they're like, who? Like they don't know. They don't like here's what I think. Let's say you put all the factions next to each other. Scoia'tael, Skellige, Nilfgaard, Northern Realms, monsters. I think monsters are the easiest to relate to. Because the reason why is because you have to know the lore with the other factions, right? With monsters, it's just like, oh, I just want to crush things. You know what I mean? You don't have to know a lot about the lore; they just look cool. With the other ones, you invest yourself, and and that's why you picked him, I think. Pumpkin, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
You are.
That's how I feel.
When I went to play Squirtle, I don't care what the lore is. I play them because I like the control aspect. So I agree with you. I like to one trick. Every game I've played ever, I always one trick. I pick something and I only play it hundreds of thousands of hours. Okay, maybe not hundreds of thousands, thousands of hours.
Yeah.
But I usually like to try everything first because, well, I mean, how will you know if you don't like Squirtle if you only play monsters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about the
Scared to
control
like them.
faction, I completely agree. I like controlling just as much. Like I think it's a lot of fun. That's why I used to always put Scorch in my deck and stuff like that. Like I can really appreciate that. My perspective was coming from if I had to look at a faction and say, okay, which faction are you going to play? You know what I mean? But definitely after like playing everything, I could see why you would pick Squirtle, even if it's not for the lore.
Well, I just like Scorch, and Ethnic could play Scorch
Right.
twice, so
That's
it's
sometimes
a
that's all you
clear
need.
answer.
Scorch is a card that has never, ever changed in any version of Gwent ever. That card, well, except the fact that it's gold now. It did go through all the colors, bronze, silver, and gold. The last thing I want to say is there could also be a subliminal thing that the logo for Witcher 3 was the monster symbol, as you can see here. I will put it at that
It's
camera.
psychology.
And then this camera there. I mean, it's right there. So it's possible that people just saw, oh, I recognize that thing. That's the Witcher thing. I like Witchers. Maybe. We can move on, though, because we should probably talk about some other leaders, not just Aridin. In fact, we should talk about the new leaders that were just announced this week and more to come, as well as Shinmiri, guest on the last podcast, has already revealed the artwork and provision addition, I guess, not cost, of Arnjolf, the Patricide, the new Skellige leader. But we also got to see Ardal Ebdahi, who is a 16 provision point adding leader that seizes an enemy unit with strength 3 or lower, increase by 1 for each tactic in your deck. I wanted to say something about this leader real quick. This leader is really important for the game because I think that it brings back something that was really important to Nilfgaard specifically, and that's like a very clear defined archetype that was built around deck building, because Alchemy Nilfgaard was probably one of the most iconic control decks that was in, as far as like longevity, like as soon as Viper Witchers were added to the game, that was it. And once you put them in your deck, your whole deck revolves around them or trying to like break them or have some sort of support where they can carry you to victory. And while people had mixed feelings about Viper Witchers, it was still the deck building deck. You had to completely build around it. And this brings that back, but it just makes it a 1 use, not a 6 use, which was like the most aggravating thing about Viper Witchers. So it actually cares about what's in the deck, and I think that it's refreshing to have a leader do that. And it's refreshing that it's Nilfgaard that does it. The power itself, I mean, I think that we have to play with this one. Pumpkin, what do you think about the power level of this new Nilfgaard leader?
So I ran through all the different tactics. There aren't a lot. That's my dog. You can say hi to Benji.
Hey, Benji.
The power level, I think it's on the lower side. I think we need some more tactic cards in the game. The current tactic pool is kind of limiting. Mm-hmm. You can pull 4 pretty easily. 8's pushing it. 12 is not going to happen. So in the upcoming expansion, this could definitely change. But I think on release, I think his power level is too weak to see a lot of play.
I think the 8's legit, though. I don't know. I think nobody's exploring Decoy. I think that card actually might be fine. It's a low provision tactic. I think that Glorious Hunt will always have relevancy, I think, as long as there are immune units that are in the meta. I don't think it's out there.
Okay, so let's say you get 8 tactics in the deck, right? Because you're not pushing 12. 12 is not happening.
That's just memeing, yeah.
So let's say you push 8 into the deck. Your leader is stealing a 5. So I think this leader is really, really strong in an engine meta, but that's not a thing right now. And I mean, it could be a thing with Meave coming into the game, but yeah, I just don't see it. I don't think that the ability is strong enough. It's not the type of ability that you can just save in round 3 and just have it as a tempo swing. You basically have to be stealing an engine, or you can Operator and Enforcer and steal that.
Hey, that's a cool idea. It's actually a pretty cool idea. You Operator something and steal it, because you could do it in the same turn. So you get 2 engines at once. And one of the reasons why I've enjoyed playing Henselt so much is that at any given time, I can create 2 engines at the same time. So the opponent has to choose to deal with one of them or happen to have a way to deal with both of them, I guess with Ox or something like that. But the idea was that was usually enough to that was it. Like that edged me out for the rest of the game, having at least one engine unanswered and being able to develop another engine on top of that. Then you have the other engines that are, once you ping something down, you can take it. So it's not like stuff is necessarily out of reach because you can do damage. I don't know what kind of package he's run. I mean, could be maybe a little bit of reveal, could be probably something that would work more with assassination. But I mean, I think it seems better than people are making it out to be, but people are still kind of respecting that it's good. OceanMud, what do you think about this ability coming in for Nilfgaard here?
Well, I think Pumpkin is probably closer. Like I feel like I agree with Pumpkin. I didn't look at the tactic cards. I saw a Reddit post about like how 8 is reasonable and they could like figure out 8. But what Pumpkin said about round 3, I thought was interesting about how it's not really something you can use for round 3. Like you have to take an engine and stuff like that. Because like I'll just give you a quick example. Let's say you're playing against Broover, and let's just say for example you have like a short round 3, and they play the dragon. What is it? Seth and Synthesis.
Yep.
It's an 8-point card. And then, all right, you play a card, and then they play like a little elf girl or whatever that does damage to you, and that's your only target that you can take because you played first or something, and they have last say. So basically, you're taking like their 2-point girl elf when it dealt damage. So it's not a high value leader ability. And sometimes I could imagine where you're not going to be able to get that leader ability off at all.
Yep.
So what that means to me is that you have to have a longer round 3 in order to. What do you think of McBeard? I feel like you have to have a longer round 3, which means you have to win round 1. So if you don't win round 1,
I think I think the future of people playing around this leader will tell the tale, and I could be wrong. But
right.
I got to say that in no world do I imagine that I'm playing a deck with a card with like assassination that at least can do damage to something or reduce its number. And also in a world where, since I'm using this as a leader ability, I am taking this action in the same turn that I'm playing a card, that I can't bring something down to 5 to take if it's the only thing I can do in my 8 tactic deck. In last round, there's not going to be a single unit that I can at least get to 5 to take for the 10 point swing. At worst case, I mean, I feel like it's just a numbers game, and then I'm just doing what a lot of leaders do right now with one use, is wait for the last play and see if you can get the huge swing that you need with your opponent not being able to interact with it.
Yeah. Can I say a quick thing right quick, Pumpkin? The thing about the assassination play, let's say you have the short round 3 and you do take their engine. What are you going to play the assassination on? Because they no longer have a unit on their board.
Well,
I don't. Are you talking to McBeard or to me?
I was talking to McBeard because he was talking about the assassination. But I'm
just like giving an example that I have a lot of stuff that's pinging. You got the tactics engines that are pinging. You have lots of ways to deal damage. Lots of cards that you run that can bring down strength levels that you can take it. Like that's the idea, is that you have first of all, the leader ability is always there. So the opponent is playing around it at all times, probably sometimes suboptimally. Think about how I'm losing my voice. Sorry. Like the way secrets work in Hearthstone, like you don't know what you're playing into, so you have to play around it. With Dahi is that if you play something that's worth stealing, he will always steal it. So how can you eventually, you have to give him something to take?
Well, no, but that's the point. OceanMud is correct. So let's say you're playing monsters and you're playing against it. Let's say your hand is Azrael, which is hitting, 15. Mm-hmm. Let's say you have a werewolf that's immune. You can't touch that. And let's say you have a drowner. You're stealing a drowner. You're stealing a 2 drowner. It's a 4-point play.
I mean, I'm not really arguing about the round 3 viability of the leader, which is refreshing because it's nice to have a single use leader that isn't automatically expected to just be a round 3 play. So I guess you just look at Nilfgaard as a faction that can do some sort of disgusting skeleton combo, and since his leader ability is so threatening and likely to be used in round 1 or possibly to bleed in round 2, you're going to get the long round where you can construct this. Perhaps your opponent can't really. Maybe he's already playing suboptimally, can't answer Avalok. Avalok is getting nerfed, but so is, lots of stuff is changing. But I just think that he's probably going to be good. I think he's probably going to be.
But yeah, I think in round 3, if you have a long round 3 and you have the Ardle and you're playing Ardle, I think it'll be pretty strong. I think it'll be fine because you can take an engine and you can still have it used. It's one thing I think that's strong about it is that it's hard to counter. Which what I mean by that is you take the card and it's almost like you took their card. Mm-hmm. It's almost like you took a card out of their hand because you took it.
Yeah,
with Woodland Spirit. With Woodland Spirit, they peter it or whatever if they don't have last say. or if they do have last say, you know what I mean? So that's your leader ability gone. So I think that I can see situations where Arda would be strong, but the thing about it is like I don't see how a deck would let you win round one so easily when you have that leader ability round three. I just see it not going off.
The biggest issue is it's conditional, and the upside isn't that great unless you're stealing an engine.
Mm-hmm. I would agree.
Right. So like Woodland is an 8 always, 100% of the time. This is a potential 10, assuming you could fit 8 tactics in, and it's conditionally 10. Mm-hmm. Granted, I will say Avalok got buffed to 5, so you can steal Avalok now. So if Avalok becomes meta, this leader is actually... I'll consider it.
You think Avalok got buffed? Is it because...
Yeah, because Professional doesn't kill it.
Because Professional doesn't kill it. And I jumped into your stream earlier today. You were talking about how the Kyrnex Unicorn nerf also affects that. However, I mean, being at a 5 threshold, there's not a lot of 5 threshold stuff, I guess. Alzur's Thunder nerf probably...
Thunder, yeah. 5
Thunder got nerfed too, I mean... So
or buff.
The access to 5 ping is now, you may have to run a special card that has no body to get that effect, but that effect is very strong because 5 is going to be premium removal. 5 for 5 at premium removal seems good for a control deck. I do want to talk about Queen Meave though. I do want to move on, but I think that the tactics based stuff, time will tell. Nilfgaard already has some tactics stuff that they were doing. Oh, the last thing I just want to say, just yes or no. Do you think Ardal is going to be better than Calvet in the meta coming up? Just quick prediction. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yes.
Better than Calvin.
Yeah.
I'd say par. Probably not.
Okay.
Probably not. I would say it's at least on par. But if I had to put my money on something, I'd put it on Calvin. I'd say. Yeah. But no for both of them, to be honest.
So to anybody in the chat that doesn't know where we're getting this random information about cards changing, since there hasn't been any official word, a piece of news that should be explained is that there is going to be a developer stream tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time, I believe, 8 p.m. CEST. So there's going to be a developer stream tomorrow, which changes my whole day for the better, because I love when Slama's on the CDPR stream. But also, what was the other thing I was going to say? I just didn't want to forget to mention that. People in the chat talking about that, right? So there was a bot on the official GWENT Discord that had updated values to some cards, and people were able to see it. That's where it started. And Berja's also been talking about the Unicorn Kyrnex nerf on the CDPR forums officially, but little values like the Alzur's Thunder stuff or Avalok's strength level, his body, his 6-point body, that's speculative. It's not hard information. It's we've seen a leak, and it actually is possibly in the first time not a leak LEEK. It actually feels like an LEAK. But it's out there. I don't like talking about it, but it's very much out there, and we just talked about it. So there we go.
I'm happy about the Oz rule. Did you guys see that? How it's like how it's 1 strength or something instead of 2 strength?
So marching orders pulls it guaranteed. Well, it was already pulling Ghoul, I guess.
I wasn't even thinking about marching orders. I was thinking about Professional. Oh my gosh. Like it was 12 and 15 before. Like now Professional just completely dodges it, which is fantastic, I think.
So Professional got nerfed, you guys think, in popular opinion?
I didn't even consider like Professional in the equation. I was just considering Oscar. But yeah, like when you put it like that, maybe it did get indirectly nerfed.
I think it's going to change.
Well, definitely
it's going to shift in probably a lot of dramatic and subtle ways, like just
good.
How, yeah, exactly, but good. But nothing feels like it's going to like tip over. Like, hold on. I mean, I do want to keep talking about this part, but we will talk about Queen Meave. I promise you, my friends. Just a quick thing that Pumpkin, you were probably sick of. This is what I saw when I came over to your stream. Everybody asking you about this change to Shira. Now, this has been confirmed by Paul Burge on the CD Projekt Red forums that Shira will now kill himself with his effect. So, apparently this is lore friendly, and apparently you've been talking about this all day. Pumpkin, can you give me probably your most concise response, and hopefully the last time today you have to answer this question? What about that Shira change?
So Shiru now kills himself when you proc him. Yeah. Also, he is getting a provision buff, so he's going to be cheaper.
Right.
We don't know the amount, but what will happen? So the problem is with Scoia'tael is all of Scoia'tael is kind of based around Shiru. This is kind of how Scoia'tael puts points on the board. It makes it so that having Shiru as in a 5-card round 3 it's no long. You can't rely on it anymore. It's pretty bad. Um, unless the provision buff is significant enough. I'm kind of hoping they buff a gold card to balance it out, maybe Elias or something. I don't know if I'll be playing Shuru next patch. We'll see. It's definitely painful.
I mean, I was experimenting with Stefan Skellen as like a backup. Like, at least he can take the buff and do lots of like big stuff like Swears kind of does as like a late game removal or big point swing. How does this affect the monsters standpoint? Has Shiro been giving you some hard time? I feel like OceanMud. I feel like Shiro has been for me a card that I've been watching for a while. I was surprised that the Zeal stuck around. It seems like a card that's very, very difficult to play around, especially when it comes to Brewer. Ethna of the past, Brewer of maybe the now. How do you feel about the power level of Shiro? Do you feel like this nerf is long overdue?
Well, I think a big problem with Shiru is the fact that you can interact with it the same turn to change
Mm-hmm,
stuff.
mm-hmm.
So, for example, Brewer can make it whatever it wants to, along with Call of the Forest, and it's like a complete guessing game.
Mm-hmm.
With monsters, we have a lot of
A lot of
fours,
fives.
we have a lot of fives, and they're not sticking around if Shiru's on the board. It is a welcome change. Would I have made the change they made? I always had the idea. I think I've told Pumpkin before. I don't remember. I would have just made it to where it's like Ailer and where there's just a certain amount of elves on the board to give it zeal. So at least that way you
Hmm.
can like try to control it
Hmm.
a little bit,
That's actually
like with the
kind of
with
cool.
the Shearer change about it, because I think it's still viable then. But at least it gives me a chance to like try to play around the zeal effect. But the way it is right now, the only way, like I don't know. I'll have to see it. I don't think it's terrible. But will it be worth playing? I guess we'll have to find out.
I mean, it's interesting to me. Shiru is a card like the way I was kind of explaining how I feel about Ardal is that it's a threat that exists, and the cool thing is that Shiru exists in the game. So if you're playing against Doyatel, you have to always kind of keep it in consideration. So if the card is still relevant enough that people would still try to play it, you'd still have to play around it, and it'll still affect the meta. And it'll still affect kind of how you approach Squayatel at any given time, because I feel like the game in some ways has homogenized a lot of things, but it's also made sure that things can like you can switch bronzes around and switch golds around and don't see sweeping gameplay changes unless it's like a really big build around card like something like Cairnthier. But I feel like you can like put in like maybe I don't want to run Bridge Troll, I want to run Rotfiend, although control is better. It's a bad example. But I still think that you can do that and still it's numbers wise, you know what you're getting for provisions and you know that you're still going to get roughly the same idea. You can just play how you want to play, just to get the numbers, to get the numbers you need. We've delayed long enough. Let's talk about Queen Meave, a nice long round leader for Northern Realms. Very simple, but pretty good, I think. Queen Meave comes in offering 7 provisions to your deck. Boost an ally by 1, cooldown 2. Just like Croc on Crate, but reverse. Cannot affect enemies. Very, very important for people who wanted to abuse Black Blood, Scorch, Epidemic, whatever. It's only allies, but there are a lot of units that Northern Realms cares about. I think this is a fantastic long round leader that makes good bronzes better and makes underplayed bronzes at least perhaps an option, like cards that care about being boosted before using an order without zeal or something like that. Like really slow cards might actually have a chance. Anna always has an activation. That's a big one. What do you guys think about this long round leader, Queen Meave? Pumpkin, I'll throw it to you first.
Well, I mean, if you queue into crack, it's going to be like Usurper versus Usurper. A really fun game. I'm hoping it's enough to push NR. Keeping engines alive is always their biggest struggle, and boosting a unit by 1 should keep them out of range, especially since Cairo is getting nerfed. I kind of wish you could boost your opponent's cards. I realize you could abuse cards like Epidemic, Scorch, or Black Blood, but I think I'd be okay with that. I was kind of sad that you can't boost your opponent's cards because, well, I would want to play cards like Epidemic, Scorch, or Black Blood.
Black Blood targeted removal on anything
Black Blood would
seems
be
a
insane.
little strong.
Well, I mean, Squirtle used to do that in PTR Homecoming.
It seemed strong.
Used to play Black Blood.
Most of the stuff that Squirtle did control-wise seemed pretty strong.
I don't know. I wouldn't mind NR having control elements. It's similar to like a Gaunter, a little cheaper, but maybe it'd be a little too strong.
I mean, they'd have the spell tutor. You think that they're going to get sorry about my voice, guys. I feel like they're going to get maybe some more support for control and do more stuff with spells, because they have like the mages, the Aretuza Academy, I think would be classified as NR. If you classify Oxenford, you should. I think that's definitely NR. Even though Velen is no man's land, I think it's all under the rule of NR at some point. So you could say that I feel like there's an expansion to the faction that could offer more cool stuff to do with spells. I feel like with maybe keywords, they're just playing it safe right now, and I'm looking forward to new cards because with keywords, there's some fun stuff, and I think that in contrast to Ardal, who is very like archetypical, you know what you're going to do with this leader. New cards greatly affect this leader, and then you have Queen Meve, who feels like could have been just like a stock character like Croc is, like belongs in the base game. You can just easily connect the dots on where she would be valuable. She's not interesting like Ardal is, but I can see like a lot of potential, and I still have fun thinking about the kind of decks you can put her in. What do you think about this ability? Every 2 turns boost by 1 OceanMud. And also as an expanded question, I guess, long round leaders in general, as you are known to play Aridin, who has kind of a long round potential, but also a single use ability, which is usually a round shutdown ability.
Right. I like long round abilities. Yeah, I have a lot of fun with it. I like Aridin. I never played Aridin Morntart because Aridin Morntart's not really a long round ability, but I did dabble in the Aridin Sabbath and played that. I don't know if Slizzard. I guess Slizzard's kind of like a long round. I never tried that either. But I have a quick question actually, just right quick, just yes or no. Which one do you guys think is stronger, Kraken Crate or Meve? Can't hear you, McBearded.
In the respective factions, I guess Croc has more synergy with Wild Boar, so maybe
like just ability power.
I mean,
I would say
yeah. With the right units on board, Meve gets 2 for 1. But then again, you could say the same thing about Demoven, but it's easier for Meve to achieve it. It's a tough call. Whew. Who has more provisions?
You're looking deep. No, I didn't mean. It wasn't a trick question.
No, I just don't know. I've
had hands-on with Croc. Meve because you can. It's proactive. You can play it immediately.
I think Meve is stronger than Crack probably because with Crack you need your opponent to have a board, or I know you can self wound or you will in the future, but with Meve you can just put down something and then boost it. So I kind of like that ability. I know I'm looking at it kind of kind of shallow, but I also like what you said, McBeard, about how it makes underperforming bronzes a little bit better. I thought that was really interesting. So like for example, Arbalist making it a 3 to a 4. Well, now Wild Hunt Hound can't kill it.
Yeah.
So I like how it pushes stuff out of ranges.
Well, and Arbalest is already like really good, but like cards like Lyrian Landsknecht, which is probably, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world if you're running a humans deck or maybe a Hensalt deck, but his qualification to get the extra boost to get the extra punch to his ping is to be boosted, but it's an order, so it's like
I didn't even think
to
about
be able
that.
to boost it on call to activate it. I mean, it's a weird situation. I feel like there's no real deck in my mind or any game flow in my mind since I've never actually played with Meve. Just the one thing about Croc is that he does have the Bloodthirst unit, so that damage does translate into extra damage, and because it's easy enough to hit those Bloodthirst the conditions, like for Pirate Captain, you play Pirate Captain. So Croc's getting extra value on his pings in like a big picture sense, especially with like value that it might add through Wild Boar. So I really think game by game, I mean, I would love to see a tournament where Meve takes on Croc. I would just like to see maybe just one
I would
time.
not want to see
just
that.
Once I want to see.
I would not want to see that
one
game.
time.
Like but yeah, like the strategies, like Scytheman, Lyrian Scytheman. It's something. It's like a 2 for 4, and for every boosted unit, it gets +1.
Yeah,
I can see that being really strong because you just stick Commander's Horn in your deck or whatever. You have the what's her name, Anna Stringar or something like that. That's another 3. Kejwani, and then you plop down a 10-point Lyrian Scytheman. So like I just feel like that it has a lot of potential. Meve does.
Yeah, double shield maybe may not be the craziest thing, like Crack double spear. So you could just
You're turning into PotionMud, McBeard. Come on.
I'm just saying. Yes. I'm just saying.
I agree.
Pumpkin, what do you think, Croc or Meve?
Well, Meve is always better in the mirror because the way Croc gets value is removing all your opponent's stuff. If Meve's keeping everything alive and denying Bloodthirst, your engines are living and your engines are smashing the board. You win every time because Wild Board never gets any value. Also note, Shield and Spear are getting changed. I don't know if you guys read that.
Nope.
I didn't
read that. I didn't read. This is breaking news to me. What's the deal?
We don't know what it is.
Oh.
Berza didn't tell us what it does, but they're getting changed. Something's happening, and I don't think it's just a provision change.
Well, that could be massive. That could be massive impact to both Croc and Meave in the future. Well, really everybody.
It better not. I have a vision. It's going to be where you have to have a unit on the board or something like that. Like, I don't know if that's right. I don't know if it's wrong, but I have to tell you, it better not be armor. It better not be armor, because like I don't know if that's the right move either.
I mean, it could be.
But the reason
it could also be there's a cooldown increase on both of those items, and they get a provision reduction.
Okay, sure.
That would still be bad.
No.
So
I discussed this on stream. Yeah, if you put a 2 cooldown and drop the provision to 4, it's a massive buff to control decks because they don't actually need the pings every turn. And Ocean, the reason why you wouldn't mind it to have a unit is because your faction has immune units, so it wouldn't matter. So,
so does yours, though.
I meant for the card in general, but yeah, like I understand where you're coming from, because not every faction has a immune unit. So I was just thinking, I was trying to be on every faction, but if you want to talk about monsters, sure, why not just change it to that?
Yeah, that would work. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, how many ways can you change it? They've already been changed, Spear and Shield specifically, to enough that unless it's just another provision increase to 8, when they're reducing bronze weather to 7. I mean, that's an interesting. This is the last thing I want to talk about as far as like these leaks, I think. But I think that the bronze weather going down to 7 will make me feel less bad about trying it, I guess, because I feel like I
don't think it's good enough.
I mean, I don't think it is either, but I do think that I would at least the deck you can build around it isn't like 8 was ridiculously high. It still feels too safe at 7, but I don't know. Would you guys play weather at 6? Would you guys play weather at 6? Pumpkin, what do you think?
Maybe. I'd play it at 6, maybe.
I've played weather at 8 and it was fine. Obviously, frost and rain are unplayable, but fog is okay. I used to play a calculus deck with fog. The big thing here is spells are getting cheaper. So assassination, thunder, and all weather are going down in cost, which means it's much easier to build a spell-centric deck, which in the past you couldn't do that because CDPR nerfed all the spells and then they nerfed all the artifacts and then, everything was too expensive.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'm actually really interested in playing some kind of like really spell-oriented deck. Spellitel might be coming back. That would be fun. And the buff to weather is actually pretty significant. Getting 8 value is not bad. It helps you line up for Scorches. And as long as you have some kind of movement, Strays is still a pretty decent card.
Yeah. Strays, even a 1-of, it just always feels like you're just kind of covering your bases.
Yeah. And like Ragnarok sometimes doesn't get a lot of value. I know Ocean's played a good amount of that card, and he could probably tell me he's played like 2-point Ragnaroks. And in some cases, it actually is bad, detrimental. The other day, you were boosting one of your opponent's cards continuously so that it never went below 4 on a Ragnarok. So sometimes the card is kind dicey in control decks.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem with weather is it takes 4 turns to get the value of it, and your opponent can do passes. So you might say, okay, well, you choose at the beginning of the round 1, or you do it after you lock them into round 3 or something like that.
That's kind of how it used to be, though. In Vintage Gwent, you opening up a Dagon or Woodland Spirit was not crazy, especially against some of the Nilfgaard lists that had to play into those rows.
Whoa, it's a little different because the weather effect would stick forever, whereas the fog disappeared. Because of the weather change, before weather, if it didn't tick, right? So if there was a 4 and it ticked twice and killed it, and then they did play a unit for 2 rounds and then played a unit on top, the fog would still be there. So it had to tick 4 times.
I
did
that.
too.
Yeah, I like that.
That's fine.
I missed that a little bit.
I'm kind of sad they got rid of that.
It just seemed like it was good.
Like the botchling
guaranteed
bug.
value for that cost didn't seem that crazy.
Yeah, no, it didn't. I still think it's okay. You play it 2 cards in, especially if Witchers are still seeing play, you're guaranteed 6 value.
Mm-hmm.
That's not bad. Especially with decks that struggle with early tempo. The points start mattering, especially because no one ever passes within the first 3 or 4 rounds. So you can afford to play a 0-point or 2-point card. Not the end of the world.
And I hope Triss Telekinesis gets a little bit of love too, because I feel like that card, if in a world where there's more options to build spells with at lower provision cost, Triss Telekinesis is not a tutor, so she doesn't and it has to be in your deck at the time as well. You can't play it and get any choice of stuff that you put in your starting deck. So I feel like I feel like when they were designing Triss Telekinesis, much like when they were designing Weather for Homecoming, they were played it really safe with that ability. They They basically made her very expensive, and then they also made her ability weaker because it had to be in the deck. But if there's a world where it's more realistic to have multiple specials in the deck, like I thought that maybe Usurper, or at least in a tactics-based deck, if you are putting in strong cards like Assassination, maybe you wouldn't mind having that extra piece of removal on a body. I mean, it's something I want to try, but I would like to see love to that card. I miss Tristana a little bit.
Do we know what's the provision cost? I don't remember.
She's 11 right now. She comes in at a 2-point body, and yeah, it's a bronze card in your.
It's not great because no special. You're playing at 9, and it's not a tutor, so you don't get the thin. If she went down to 8 or 9 provisions, she'd be good.
Yeah, because it's like if you're using an 8-point bronze special, it's like you get the extra body. And she eats her own epidemic, so you can't abuse it like that, like get an extra epidemic.
And it's the flexibility. So like in certain scenarios, you need the assassination to kill an engine, but every now and then you might use it for the lacerate to do 18 damage to a row. So I do think she could be very good, but I think her cost is too high right now. 11 is not very good, especially because you do have to take those extra mulligans to put the cards back into your deck.
If we're going 8 or 9, then can we make that crone that pulls organics 8 or 9 too? If we're just doing that, then
well, the problem is that one can pull a gold organic card.
Yeah.
Like what?
Whispering Hillock for your phoenixes.
Yeah, Whispering Hillock.
The 8 Whispering Hillock. That's true. Can pull that. And we know how much Phoenix is going to be played in the future, right?
Well,
it's getting buffed. It's not getting buffed, but
it's getting changed to possibly see more play because it won't cripple a deck that has to have it in it. So I think you're going to see a play rate increase for sure.
Well, isn't it just 1 provision down and 1 strength down?
Right, and I did the math.
But that's huge because you're losing points in round 2 and in round 3. You're losing 2 points for 1 provision. It's not worth it.
I'm not up to speed on every change though, but that's interesting. I knew that Phoenix was getting changed. I skimmed the Reddit thread about it, but well, I do want to ask you guys 2 more questions. The strategy section, we've talked a lot about factions and such, and we've talked. I'm fine that we talked about some of this breaking news, especially the stream coming up and the changes that we might expect. But I do want to ask, as the Monsters and Scoia'tael faction leaders, you have not revealed a thing yet, either of you gentlemen. OceanMud, I want to ask about the new leader. Now, I can speak. We don't know the leader's abilities. We don't even know the provision.
Do you want to know what the Monsters leader ability is?
Well, I mean, unless you asked and they told you, but that would be a leak, so don't do that.
Well, I do too. I don't know.
Yeah, so. I didn't know until.
It's gonna troll you.
No, I was just kidding.
I'm just saying.
Sorry, Victor. Go ahead.
I'm just saying that like we get to see the artwork and the videos are a pleasure to all of us though. So how do you feel like a new leader can improve the Monsters faction, even though it's not Aridin? If you're going to look at the card pool that's out there, what cards do you think could stand to be improved? And how do you think that this new leader may kind of enrich the faction like Ardal kind of enriches Nilfgaard?
Yeah. Well, I know that like on the wiki or whatever, it has like the Thronebreaker. I think it was confirmed or something. Maybe it'll be Thronebreaker leaders. What's the Monsters one? Is it Granover or something?
I'm not looking at the actual the memory of how it's pronounced.
Sorry, Witcher fans.
It's like
but yeah, like I feel like Monsters are in a pretty safe spot right now. Like we have most of our bases covered with the Unseen Elder, with Aridin, and with Woodland. So like if I had to like visualize something that could improve the faction, maybe highest unit, something that could work towards making it highest unit. I'm not talking about playing 13s. I'm talking about the leader ability itself helping to establish our unit. So maybe something like charge 2 and have it to where the opponent's highest unit takes 2 damage and your highest unit is boosted by 2. So it's an 8-point ability because you can use it twice and you can use it during rounds, and that'll help you get the highest unit.
That's interesting.
And it's counterable because Rivia could blow it up, or it would help versus Regis Higher Vampire if you have the opponent. But yeah, so that'd be something I would like to see changed or like improved on, which is just the highest unit the faction has.
Does Monsters really have an issue having the highest unit?
Yeah, between Woodland and Aridin, I think that. I mean, it's a board affecting ability. What you're talking about, like it's like a board state reactive ability, which is interesting. There's not a lot of that in Gwent. I mean, it's either something completely unique like that, or I feel like beasts and organic, there's territory to explore there, because like I think cockatrice, like there's a lot of decent beasts. I mean, we all know wolf pack is one of the best cards in the game. So,
Okay.
we're gonna be playing our wolf packs and our beasts, and maybe there's a beast leader. But Gurnichora, the way it is spelled, thanks chat. I haven't. I'm in Angren and Thronebreaker, but I haven't even encountered, so I don't even know the flavor really. I just know that it seems like it's a big ugly thing, like monsters tend to support, your Goliaths and Spirit Tips and what have you. And I don't know. It seems like it could have to do with big units because it's a big. It seems like it's a big gross thing, but I don't know.
Right. Well, do you guys want to know like a 5 second story about Gurnichora? Because I actually looked it up. Or should I? Or is that considered a spoiler?
I think you should definitely use it. Well, it could be a spoiler. I think it would be a spoiler because I don't want to know it, because I actually
No, then I
personally
won't tell you.
will tell you. I don't want to take my headphones off.
But I will say that it's flavor wise. The ability that I did is flavor wise with who she is as a person or monster or whatever she is.
Well, that's good.
So it's flavor related.
Pumpkin,
So,
what do
yeah.
you think? What do you think coming in for Scoia'tael could use some support as far as the faction is concerned? And what do you hope that Dane, the Scoia'tael leader that's coming in, will give to the faction?
So we've been told by Berza that it's going to be a trap leader. It's going to be something interacting with some kind of trap. I'm a little worried. My guess is it's going to be too strong or very underpowered. I feel like it's. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it comes out and it's just nice balanced leader.
Don't we all? Every card in the game. That would be great. CDPR would love that too.
Yeah, so it's probably something to do with tutoring a trap out of your deck, which means it would have to be 3 times, once per round, or it's probably like create a trap. And when I say create, I don't mean 3 options. I mean like spawn, and you have all the options like old Aridin. So no randomness.
I thought that's too strong.
Aridin.
Like maybe
1 trap?
That's like a Swiss Army knife. Whatever you need, whenever you need it.
Oh, okay. So what do you need? You need points. You're either getting 8 points or you're playing a pitfall trap.
What was that? What was that card you played against me that one time that bounced a trap from your
Yorvet.
Pitfall. Yeah, nice card.
I had no idea. Like when Pumpkin, I didn't know that was a card. That
Well, yeah, it's a great card as long as nobody knows what you're playing. The problem is,
even if
when you're streaming and all of a sudden people are playing their best cards 2 cards into the round, and then they stable wolf pack for the very end of the game.
I didn't mean to make you salty. But yeah, I thought that was a great. But yeah, like maybe is that too weak to have it as a leader ability? Have it bounce a trap that's in play or replayed or something like that.
It could be like flip a trap over again. I mean, it could be
right.
Maybe you could do it like Elder
like
style.
That, maybe. Yeah.
Like it gets you 5 points a turn if you flip an incinerating trap over, but maybe you can flip a gold one over. Like, is it so crazy when you compare it to Unseen Elder? Something like that. I mean, is it even good though? I mean, Unseen Elder is fantastic.
It's not.
Oh, good question. What if you made it like where you could do it each turn, like it refreshes, where you can flip a trap over?
Well, not each turn. I mean,
again, that'd be kind of cool.
5 points a turn seems okay.
Well, Unseen Elder can do the Harpy Egg or whatever. That's 5 points.
I'm assuming you're talking bronzes, right? Not golds as well.
Oh, well, Elder can trigger gold, so I'm just wondering.
No, I know that, but because replaying Pitfall would actually be good if you did it 3 times. That's insane. Yeah. I assumed you meant Crushing Trap. Incinerating's unplayable, but Crushing is quite good if you replay. The problem is you generally want to play it towards the end of a round, and you need 3 turns to replay, so... It could be okay.
I mean, it could be deck-based, like Yorveth Gambit, maybe?
Gambit's... Okay, so I was thinking, how do you make Gambit playable? Because the card is terrible. I don't know if you know this, but if you play Incinerating Trap and Pitfall Trap in the same deck and you Gambit and you hit both, they both proc at the same time. If they play a unit, they will both flip at the same time.
Yeah.
So the Pitfall will flip. Even if it kills a unit, the Incinerating Trap will flip over and do nothing. So the problem with Gambit is there's not enough traps to support it because it just makes your mulligans terrible. The one scenario that I could come up with Gambit being good is if the leader ability was spawn a trap and then create a duplicate of that trap in your deck. It wouldn't... Yeah, I don't know. It might be too strong. You wouldn't be able to like spawn a pitfall and then gambit the pitfall because you'll have 2 pitfalls on the board, and it's not like it would deny the next 2 units from your opponent. It would deny 1 unit. So like you'd have to stagger them. But yeah, I'm kind of hoping for some kind of gambit buff because at the moment it's pretty bad.
Is Incinerating Trap getting changed too though? I thought it was getting
Yeah,
changed in
it's
somewhere.
one cheaper. It's still terrible.
Oh,
It
is
was
that the change?
unplayable at
Okay.
5. Well, I mean, we only saw the Discord bot and it only showed provision. So maybe hopefully it's getting a rework because 5p is still too expensive. It's just the ability itself is terrible.
Hmm.
It's
I,
good against like Isbell.
I think one of the benefits of traps is you don't know what they play, and so like you don't know if it's incinerating trap or crushing trap. So if I think you're playing incinerator trap and I play an ancient foglet or something, and I don't have any proc for it, I'm just expecting it to get boosted. Then I just played a 1 point card. So I think traps are pretty good in that regard.
So here's the problem. Timing on traps is very predictable. There are very specific turns on which you play traps. If you're playing a trap really early into a round, it's a horn, a serpent trap, or an incinerating trap. On turn 3 or turn 6, it's a crushing trap. Pitfall is the one dicey one, but it's almost always played at the end of the game. So, granted, if you're new or you just haven't played traps, you're not going to know this. But there is a way to know for the most part what your opponent's playing with traps. It's very hard to outmaneuver your opponent with traps other than Yorvith. So Yorvith, you can pick up a trap and you can play different traps. So something I like to do when I have 3 cards left, I'll pick up the Pitfall on the board with Yorvith and I'll play the Crushing Trap so that they sack a garbage unit into it and it's not Pitfall and you play Pitfall the following turn. That's really the only scenario where you could potentially bamboozle your opponent.
Oh, I just had a pretty good idea. What if it was something like when you play a trap, you know that when you click a trap, you can flip it over early, and it has a secondary weaker effect. How about every time you played the trap, you get the secondary effect that procs automatically, like how Gels procs Death Wish if he's on the board.
So the problem with that is the only traps that have that are the bronze traps, and
That is true.
that's crushing and incinerating. And incinerating is bad, and crushing is 1 damage.
True.
So you'd be procking crushing trap twice. So it would be basically a tremors effect.
I don't mind the idea of a leader not being good right away, but potentially being better later, much like Ardal looks like if he's not good.
Oh, sure. No, I agree. I'm just a little worried about Squayatal, especially with the shear change. Francesca is bad. Philevangel is bad. Ethne is not good.
I'm enjoying Ethne right now, but I'm on Pro.
Yeah, no, I've played Ethne. Ethne's fun with Scorch. It can be very good, but a lot of the times it is a little dicey. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of hoping the leader is good. If it's bad, I probably will just stop playing Squayatal.
Whoa, the faction ambassador, the love of the game hangs in the balance. What a cliffhanger.
And can I say one thing about the traps? I think that what Pumpkin said was interesting about the predictability, because like I think that traps are probably worse versus the worse your opponent is. If your opponents are really good, then they're expecting stuff. And so what I like to do, what I can imagine people doing is they're like, okay, it's this, it has to be this. And then boom, you just take them over. Pumpkin, I'm sure you've done that a few times to people that are high level players because they just expected something, you did something completely different.
Yeah, so I had a game against, I think it was Coleman the other day. It was round 1 and I just dumped a card and it was Serpent Trap because I knew it wasn't going to get any value in that game. And I treated it as the Horn card, which boosts left and right by 4, so 8 points. And then he played a card. I was 2 points behind. I just snapped past. If he had passed back, I would have lost the game. But because he respected it and I knew he was a good player and he knew all the cards, he played another card and I lost a round, a card up. But yeah, when Homecoming first came out and all these traps existed, I would do these kinds of baits and they would never work because players just didn't know the card pool. So they would just pass on a Serpent Trap when it could have been a Horn. Or I would play Horn and I'd be like 2 points under and they just snap past.
There's that delicate balance though. You want to make a card that's competitive, that people would want to play, that has power that they can achieve, but you don't want to make it so good that people can't play around it at the same time because I mean the whole point of playing suboptimally already has this kind of like unseen value. I feel like you said, you exactly what you said, Dane could be really, really good or terrible based on how viable, like what he does for traps to make it better. And considering that when you look at something like Ardal, the first thing you look at is the bronze tactics because you're trying to see how many you can get into the deck. If you look at Dane in the same way, you're saying 2 of the traps are just terrible. to begin with. So that doesn't leave a lot of options, just assuming that it has to do with traps in the deck or replaying or interacting with traps, which they did. I believe it was on the last CDPR stream where they said that they look for areas in which the faction needs support, and that's where traps was originally mentioned. So, but we know that things can change. Like a lot of stuff maybe wasn't even locked in at that point, but it's very sure. That's definitely a place where they can flesh things out, or multi-tribal. But it seems like Dane doesn't care about other tribes, only elves. My friends, it's a pretty healthy discussion about the new stuff that's coming, the stuff that's passed. Any last things you wanted to drop in about the meta, about the faction ambassador program, about your? We're gonna close things off and talk about your streams, of course, in the wrap up. But we just talked about a lot of changes are coming. I don't even know all the changes, so if there's anything really cool that you've seen this week or seen in your chat that you wanted to share, let me know. Let's take advantage of your flexible schedules. Pumpkin, let me know.
So we still don't know. I'm gonna blank on the name. The Nilfgaard card that got changed temporarily to 9 strength and 11 provisions.
Letho, yeah.
They leaked it. Yeah, Letho. So in the leak on Discord, I believe he has 5 provisions. So I'm hoping for some kind of interesting effect. Nilfgaard has some of the pretty bizarre effects on some of the cards. So hopefully it's kind of cool. Hopefully it works with tactics. It could actually push tactics depending on how strong that card is.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm most looking forward to, and the spells getting reduced cost, because I do like playing spell decks.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people hate playing against them, and yeah, I can understand why.
Yeah. You're talking about one tricks. When I play MTG, I only play control decks, but like when I play Gwent, I hardly ever do. But I do love them. I am enjoying Ethna right now. OceanMud, what are you excited about as this faction week comes to a close and we are expecting finally some new content? What is the brightest spot in the future of Gwent in your eyes?
For me, I think expansions are more exciting than leaders. Because like I don't know which one should come first, to be honest. I actually thought about this. Which one would I prefer to come first, leaders or expansion? Because the leaders need the expansions to work with if they're intertwined and stuff like that. So I'm excited for the expansions to come up. One thing I will say is that I was pretty surprised with how passionate some people were with the faction wars.
Yeah.
I did see a Reddit post that said how many reward contract points we got as the faction ambassadors.
I completed mine, by the way, author of that. I did complete the last one. I just did not do it on stream. So what he does say is correct. But I first of all, I downloaded it and then I commented in it because it's like, what are you trying to say?
McBeard was like defending his points. He's like, I actually did the 5th quest. Thank you. And you want to know secret? I had 9 points. I didn't have 6.
Yeah, there's no way you had 6 points. Too.
But I didn't respond back to it because it was just like I looked at it and I was like, well, this post is 6 hours old. Nobody's going to be looking at it. So I was like, it's too late now for me to stand up for myself. So I said, I guess I just had 6 points now. And but yeah, what I was surprised at was how many contract points some people had. There was a guy in my chat that had like 28 contract points, and I was like, I said, I'll even say his name, Karani. I'm even giving you a shout out.
Cool.
But I was like, I play Gwent 4 to 6 hours every day, and I ended up with 9 points. Like, how much do you have to play to have 28 contract points? So yeah, I'm really excited for the expansion. I'm really glad that there's so many people that are passionate still about the game.
Yeah, the 6th hidden contract is win 5 games, and it just refreshes over and over, to my knowledge. So you just keep winning 5 games, and you just keep getting the points. But that's a lot. It's a lot of points. All right, cool, guys. This has been great. Let's wrap this up, my friends, and we can call this a podcast. So if you have any questions in the chat, I'll grab a few since both of the guests said that they were free to hang out a little longer. So if you have any questions in the chat, at McBearded, at me, and I'll pick them up, and we can talk about what you guys want to talk about for maybe 10 more minutes, and we'll wrap it up. But for now, I'm just going to take just the quickest break here, and we'll see you guys on the other side. Once again, this podcast is supported by our commandos. take you to patreon.com/commandershorn. What a question coming in from the chat. The first question we have is actually from Ryshik, who works at CD Projekt Red. Actually has a question for us, asking us, what do we think of Truce as a mechanic? Anybody want to lead that one off?
I can take it first. Yes. I actually like Truce. I thought it was good.
Actually,
like,
I'm going to interrupt you. Sorry, I just want to make it clear to everybody who's listening what Truce is.
Oh, great.
So
point.
what is Truce? It's an old mechanic in Gwent that basically means that if your opponent has already passed, the effect doesn't occur. Popular cards that had it: Vilgefortz on the offensive burn, and something else I'm forgetting. Anyway, but it was if your opponent had passed, you didn't get the extra effect, and it usually prevented you from abusing some sort of card advantage or unstoppable targeted removal in some way. All right, go ahead, OceanMud.
Right. So I think there's two prominent examples in my head, and you guys probably even know the examples. The first one being Rot Tosser, and having it go off. So with Truce being the ability, what McBeard was saying about how if one person passes, it doesn't go off. I think that it is needed with a card like Rot Tosser, and the other card Isabel, which gives you card advantage if you have last say in round 3, because you draw a card, your opponent drew a card, but oops, your opponent had to pass, so they can't actually play that card, so you just get an extra card.
Feels just wrong, right?
So yeah, I like the ability, and if it comes back, I wouldn't be disappointed.
You recall, I remember like when we were just starting out in Homecoming, you saw something that was potentially very dangerous about Stregobor, OceanMud, about how you could draw a card very, very early if you played first. I think it was something like that.
Yeah, good point.
That's ancient history, I guess. But
I stole it from Trinet. Trinet's shout out to Trinet. He's amazing. Like, he finds a lot of great stuff.
Trinet's a great player.
But one of the things is he sometimes finds degenerate stuff too. And so as soon as I saw him find that degenerate like Stregobor, I went to Twitter. I was like, no, like this shouldn't be happening. And so luckily they patched it up. And so I have faith that they'll patch this up as well, because I think it limits a lot of different things that CDPR can do in the future.
Pumpkin, what do you think about Truce as a mechanic, as a past mechanic?
I would love to see it back. One of the issues, I mean, you've heard of the phrase coin tosser. If you lose coin flip and you're not going to have last say. Rot Tosser can be very punishing. I'm sure OceanMud has encountered this when he's playing like Spear Tip. If he has to pass, if he's, 14 points up, he takes the pass because he doesn't think his opponent can keep up. And they play Rot Tosser for 15. I don't like the fact that there's no counterplay to the card. You can't pass to play around Rot Tosser. Mm-hmm. It's just not there. Because there were scenarios I would remember back in old Gwent where I would pass early to play around like a Vilgefortz. I would like dump my high-end card and then I'd save a garbage card for the end and I'd pass a turn early to play around Vilgefortz and it'd end up winning me the game. And that doesn't exist because, Truce doesn't exist. So I really like the added complexity, and it allows for balancing in the future. Mm-hmm. Rot Tosser, I believe the nerf that was on the Discord bot was 7 provisions.
Right, that's right.
I don't think this card will see any play. I don't. Just because you have to have it in round 1 and you have to win coin flip, or you have last say with Isbell in round 3. But even then, it's a little dicey. Rot Tosser seeing play in Shoop. Shoop is getting nerfed pretty hard. I don't think you can afford to run a 7-drop anymore. Unless the Enforcer change is like insane, where having that extra spy proc is huge. I can't imagine the Enforcer buff being strong enough to push Rot Tosser into play at 7. But I would very much like to see Truce back.
I mean, I think Rot Tosser, if you're looking at it like a removal spell, it's just the value that it was getting. I mean, the effect itself, it's the fact that you can just throw it up against a double digit and then that's it. And you just take care of it. Obviously doesn't feel great. For me, Isbell was the worst one. Like the fact that my opponent draws a card and continue playing and I can't play, that's the kind of stuff that if you got to put in Truce to stop that from happening, that's where I want it. I don't want any type of draw my opponent a card I can't interact. That feels like an old problem coming back. Like I thought we solved this problem. I thought we solved this, Morvran getting you the extra card way back in the day, all these things that, and it's always Nilfgaard that does it for some reason. Why does Nilfgaard always have to get this? I
think Truce is probably coming back. Like I would say it's probably coming back.
Well, they said that it Well, it's not coming back this patch. They've
Not this
already
patch, of
confirmed
course
that.
not. No, yeah.
Based on this 3-person
But, like,
sample size, you'd think that it was a popular.
It would
thing.
it would be like, oh well, I guess we'll never have armor again. Like I'm sure armor's coming back eventually. I'm sure that they're just like spacing out when they're going to be introducing new things. Like right now, they just have the core set. So
Yeah,
at
but
least
don't you think Rot Tosser and Isbell are perfect examples of cards that should have truth?
Yes.
So
I mean, yes.
yeah, you can.
That's just it.
There is one way. You said there's no way to play her in Rot Tosser. There is one way to play her in Rot Tosser. Does anybody know what it is? You fill your lane. They can't put something in there if you fill your lane up. But yeah,
what if they kill a unit?
On the same turn they do Rot Tosser? I guess they could. But yeah, that'd be the only counter I could.
I mean, yeah, that works. I mean, you put the default trap like.
I'm just being cheeky a little bit. I
know. It's just row capping 9 units in like a round 3 can be difficult depending on the deck you're playing.
Right.
But yes, that is true. There is some counterplay there.
But one final thing is that I think Rot Tosser is almost too weak if you have it truce if you keep it the same, because like there is a lot of like 1-ping things that can counter it. Like I have Cyclops, I have Forktail. You know
at
what I mean?
5 provisions,
So it's a
too
pretty
big.
Oh, sure. I if anything, I would keep it at 5, and I would bring the strength of it up to 3, because I really like when you think about Rot Tosser and you save some low, I don't know, like a wolf pack or something to try to counter it, or like a Peter, so that you can get the reset effect, but you can still block the large unit. I like that that's there. And against monsters, sometimes if their last card is Ozral or whatever, or their Woodland Spirit proc is, you can throw that Rot Tosser on like a 10 drop or something, and they can't necessarily block it. So you're not really abusing the fact that they don't have the interaction there. You're abusing the fact that you know what their last play is going to be, and you can use that to your advantage and get full value out of Rot Tosser.
I think the provision nerf is going to, like, yeah, it's going to probably make it less of an issue because it's not a 2 of anymore. I don't think you can really justify that.
Well, it's not a 2 of in any deck right now.
It's not a 2 of in any deck right now?
No. Spy isn't strong enough. No.
I would say it's like Marauder in Skellige. You know how you run one Marauder that does the full damage?
No, that's a 2 of.
Okay.
These days, that thing there has to be a 2 of based on how frequently
Marauder is insane. You just open
let me
the
change
Spirit
it.
to Marauder.
It's like
Predatory Dive. Can I say Predatory Dive? Okay, Predatory Dive.
Depends.
Okay, never mind.
If you're playing OceanMud, you want 2 Predatory Dives,
Absolutely.
but if you're playing some kind of Death Wish, you only want 1.
Gascon, great card.
I love that card.
Phenomenal card. Gascon, obviously, never change it. Just I've never seen it go above 3 points, but that's just because I'm a bad player. The other question. Oh, we didn't talk about Arniolf. I think that pirates, maybe something pirate related, or ship related, or something is like something that looks like they were trying to flesh out for Skellige. They seem to have support pieces in place, but maybe you're missing something there because Dimion Worship seems pretty, or Corsair seems pretty good, just because of like the amount of removal you can get out of it. But I don't know if that's something that you guys have thought about what Skellige could get as support, but it would be the last thing we hadn't talked about if you guys wanted to throw in your opinions.
I'm not sure about, I don't know the lore behind the card. I will say one thing though. Shinmiri's flavor text that he did in his tweet was fantastic. Like,
it made me want to know.
Like you're exactly right. I was like, did CDPR write that for you or something? Like, that was fantastic. Like when I read it like that. So like, I am excited for its ability. If it's like a self wound type of leader, I'm not sure about, but yeah, I'm definitely excited for the ability, whatever it may be.
Your tweet should just be snarl, roar, screech, slap.
Thank God.
Just
I'm so glad you came up with that. I had no idea what I was going to write. So that's perfect. Thank you. Yeah, awesome.
I can, anytime you need a hand, my friend.
Pumpkin, do you have any thoughts on the card?
The leader that we don't know of.
Yeah,
so
right.
In the video they showed, what was it? Berserker, the 8 strength bronze Berserker on the board. So do you think that they might actually be introducing maybe a bronze with this leader just to help with the leader?
Skellige was due for an extra card and they got it with Hemdall. They were the only time. That's like the only time a new card came in. And Skellige.
Well, I mean, there was a new card in the video. It got rotated out in Homecoming, but it could be coming back. As far as the ability, one that I saw on Reddit was you force one of your opponent's units to duel with one of your units.
I hope somebody maybe gets that ability, but I don't know if that's a Skellige thing. It feels like a Northern Realms thing.
Well, it's like a self-damaging. You damage your. If you want to create some kind of self-damaging leader, you could utilize this, right? So if you have like an 8-point card and they run a 3-point engine into it, and then you hit it back and kill it. So it's basically engine removal, and you get that potential damage proc that you need on one of your own cards.
Hey, I had one more thought. This isn't about the Skellige. Remember when you asked me about the Grinacora girl or whatever? Can I say one card that I came up with in my mind?
Sure.
It's a 4/4, and it has an order or something, and it boosts itself by 4 until the end of the turn. Now, I'm not saying it's a good card, but what it allows you to do is it allows you to have the highest unit until the end of the round to trigger something's effect.
So you can just turn it on, and it goes up to like 8, and then you drop your unit that procs the highest unit, and then at the end of your turn it goes back down again to 4.
Right, it's just a 4/4 until the end of the turn, but it procs you as having the highest unit.
I mean, that's actually seems like a pretty reasonable ability. It seems very flavorful and makes. I mean, there's probably Pumpkin. You've already found a way to break this card.
You just consume it. It's an 8/4. It's completely busted. What are you talking about?
That is a good idea.
This card is awesome.
It's completely.
I was just thinking about how reasonable it was, and Pumpkin's like, I've already busted this shit wide open.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's. Well, but it was just a thought, you know what I mean? So yeah.
I mean, I liked it, and then maybe if it was a smaller, I don't know. It's
the thought.
I don't envy the design.
It's not as much the card itself, but the thought of the card. You know what I mean? Something like that, which I think is unique to the card. So yeah, but Pumpkin, you're absolutely right. If you consumed it, that's a great idea. I didn't think about that.
Oh man. Guys, this podcast has been a ton of fun. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad you guys had a little bit of extra time. We could extend it out to a 90-minute podcast. But we're going to wrap it up here because I want to get this live tonight and get up early and get my Resident Evil 2 loaded up. I'm going to be get ready for the stream, the dev stream. So much happening on Friday tomorrow. My God. And but I want to know where can people find you, Pumpkin, when you're out there streaming? What is your where can people find you streaming? Are you on YouTube? Where can people find you on Twitter? Let people know.
Twitch.tv/SirPumpkn. There's no I in pumpkin.
I fixed that. You notice I fixed that last time you were on the podcast.
I did.
I remade the
Twitter and YouTube, same thing. Yeah, I stream every day. Come check me out. I play everything, I guess. Maybe less Squirtle now after the upcoming patch. Hopefully that's not the case, but we'll have to wait and see.
It's interesting. I played a lot of Northern Realms for the faction battle, and now I'm like, okay, well, Realms, the faction battle's over. I don't have to play so many realms, and now I just want to play Northern Realms because Meve looks pretty sweet. So it looks like I'm gonna stick with Northern Realms. And if I talked over that, but that was SirPumpkn with no I in the word pumpkin, just in case I completely interrupted your plug. OceanMud, where can people find you on the daily as you're rocking Monster Faction stuff?
Well, I do have a Twitter, and I just want to thank everybody for the support. It's grown a lot after I was named the Monster Faction ambassador, so I'm closing in on 1,000 Twitter followers. So thank you guys so much for that. My Twitch is twitch.tv/OceanMud, and I have something pretty exciting coming up. I'm actually about to reach 1 million views, so I think that's like insane for me. Pumpkin's already at like 2.5 million. Like, he's just fantastic, but like I'm making my way, so thank you everybody for that. And I do have a YouTube channel which I upload a game of the day, just a highlight if you can't catch the stream. Final thing, monsterfaction.com. If you want to see a monster deck that's reasonable quality, then just go there, and it's like a daily meta snapshot.
Links will all be in the show notes, my friends, so you can check those out in the description of the video or in the show notes for the podcast. I think that's good. The faction ambassador program is it's a really cool thing, and the fact that all the faction ambassadors wanted to come on my show. Shinmiri and Jagras joined me last week, OceanMud and SirPumpkn this week. Really good, because this has been 2 back-to-back star-studded podcasts. You're all very busy. You all both of you stream very long periods of time in comparison to me, which is like 3-4 hours a day, which is these days very, very short in the streaming world. So thanks for making the time to be on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Thanks for returning, Pumpkin, and OceanMud. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was
Thanks
great.
for having me on. It's a pleasure always. Thank you so much.
All right, that will do it for podcast 106, my friends. Thanks for joining us today in the chat. Thanks again for the host, Pumpkin. Seems like a lot of people wanted to stick around and hang out. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself as much as I did. But that will be it, my friends. Thanks for joining us. This is McBeard. Best of luck on the path.